to our live stream for Virtually Maker Faire. We really appreciate you joining us today. I know it's been a tough time for everyone. First of all, I'd like to wish you good mental health and physical health. And I'd like to remind us that crises can bring out the best in people. And I think Virtually Maker Faire is a good example of that. There are thousands of makers trying to help and use their skills and experience. And I'm also trying to do that as well. So first, I'll give you an idea of who I am and why you should listen to me. So I'm a maker and a web developer. I've lived in a bunch of countries and worked in some too. I really enjoy making. I've tinkered with things from a young age. So it's definitely a part of my identity. And also, I really love questions. I'm a very curious person. So if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. Don't wait. You can wait till the end, but just get them off your mind while they're fresh. That's what I always say. So if you have any questions after the event, you can contact me on Twitter or this email address. All right, so let's move on. So we all know the importance of hand washing. It's always been important, but especially during a pandemic. And the problem is not just technique, but duration. So we hear from health authorities worldwide that we should be washing our hands for a minimum of 20 seconds to kill the virus. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm quite bad at timekeeping in my head, and I bet a lot of kids and other people are too. They say that you should sing happy birthday to yourself twice, but I find that really irritating. After about 10, 20 times, I just said, I've had enough. There has to be a better way. And there is. You're actually carrying it in your pocket or it's on your kitchen counter. It's a timer. But let's think a bit about how a timer works, because I bet it's a little bit more complicated than you thought. So can someone in the comments write, what does a timer actually do? Give me your shortest definition for what a timer does. So short and complete. I'll just wait a few seconds and see if we get any good replies there. I'm not sure how long the delay is, but I'll tell you what a timer does. So it should count down, and it should notify the user when that countdown has finished. That's what most people would say. But there's actually a few other steps that we shouldn't ignore for this particular problem. I call it the timer problem. So first, we need to set a particular time, and then we need to start the timer, and then, only then, will the timer start to count down from that time, and it will notify you when it's finished. So I would like to think that there's an even better way to do that. And if you've already watched the video, I'll just show you how our little hand wash timer works in action. So the hands trigger the infrared sensor. And you can see that the display is telling you how much time is left in case you get anxious and impatient. And when it's finished, there you go. You get a little message congratulating you. So now you've washed your hands properly. Excellent. So you might be wondering, okay, so we understand how all this works, but why would we use Modi? We could use Arduino or something like that. So you could use Arduino, but I kind of experimented with it a little bit, but I was always coming up against some roadblocks. Particularly, I didn't have the sensors I needed, so I had to go search for them. And the wires, sometimes they get a little broken, frayed, not long enough, too long, too messy. You can connect them the wrong way. There's voltages involved. I've fried a few components. There's pins that you can bend, so it's a bit of a headache. Now, Modi was created by a robotics genius whose goals were specifically to solve those problems. So it's designed to be fast, intuitive, and easy so that anyone can learn coding and robotics education. So I'll show you the basics of it. We've got 3 types of modules. We have an input, which is color-coded purple, and we have an output, which is color-coded orange, and we have our setup module, which is yellow. Now, the really cool thing that I like, and why it's such a great tool for teaching, is right out of the box, with no configuration, it just works. So as you can see, it's telling you how much power the battery has left. Not a lot, so I'll try to keep this short. I'm just kidding, it lasts quite a long while. So you can see that it doesn't matter the order that you connect them in, they just work. So the display will tell you how much power the battery has, but what happens if we connect it to, for example, a button? Let's see. So you can see it's telling you the button status. So they're also smart. They know how to work with each other, which is really cool. So let's go back to our timer problem, and let's find out which modules can help us solve each of the parts of the timer problem. So first, we need to set a time, and we'll do that with code. It's not a module, so it's kind of cheating, but it is what will be solving the problem for us. And how about to start the timer? We're going to use the infrared module for that. And what about counting down? We're going to show that with the display. Technically, the code is doing the heavy lifting, but the display is our feedback device. And how are we going to notify the user? They're going to get feedback from the display and the speaker modules. So I've made a little summary of all the components you need for solving this problem. So let's start. We've got the battery at first, because that gives us power. Here's a battery. Next, let's see. So the modules are called MODI, M-O-D-I. I think someone in the group chat will help you. So we've got our battery. Next, we've got our infrared, which will be our on switch. So that's very important. That's going to trigger the whole device. Next, we've got a speaker, and the speaker is our user feedback. And next, we've got our display, which again is user feedback, but you might imagine you need to kind of anchor these somewhere so they don't go flying around, so they're nice and stable. So we use a basic block, which gives us stability. So this is the basic block. It probably looks quite familiar. It's basically a Lego piece. So you can see that MODI modules are compatible with Lego. So you can just pop it in, and it's nice and sturdy. It's a good way to anchor your project. It's a nice platform. Okay, so we've talked about the basics. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the infrared sensor because I think it's the most interesting one in this project. So I'm going to just put my little stand here. Okay. Let me see. There we go. Actually, I think I'm going to put it. One second. I'm too indecisive today. I keep wanting to change it up. But, all right, so here you go. The infrared sensor. The display is showing you what the values of the infrared sensors are. So you can see that at 0, it means my hand is out of range. It can't detect anything. That's about 10 to 15 centimeters. But as we get closer, right up to it, it gets close to 100%. So that's how the infrared sensor works. So that's an input module. Okay, so let's move on to our timer problem. We're going to add a bit more detail because it helps to organize your thoughts so that when you go to the coding part, it'll be a piece of cake. So what do we need to set a time? In code speak, we need to create a variable, and I'm going to do just that in a second. Okay, so this is our MODI Studio coding platform. And I'm going to open up the module box, and I'm going to get rid of this inactive module. There we go. We have a clean slate. I'm going to get a variable module. It's a number. I'm going to put it here. And number 0 is not a really nice name. I don't like it. So I'm going to name it time. Okay, so now we have a variable named time. I'm going to see what the next step is. Let's see. So we've created a variable, check. And how long should that variable be? How long do we need to wash our hands for? I'm going to use a math block, drop it in there, and you can see that our time variable is selectable. So we click it, and we're giving a value to our time variable. The value is going to be 20 because that's how many seconds we need to wash our hands for. Okay. So 20. Now, you might have noticed that there aren't any units for 20. 20 what? 20 potatoes, 20 apples? It's a little weird, but just stay tuned. We're going to attach some units to it shortly. So right now, we don't need units. So we've done the setting the time. Let's see what is next in our timer problem. We have to start. Remember, the infrared is what triggers our creation. So not only do we need the infrared, but we need to decide how sensitive the infrared module should be. So let's come back here. And we're going to grab an if block because we need an if condition. And oh no, we don't have an infrared module. What's going on here? So I'm just going to connect. Let me show you. So this is our network module. I kind of haven't mentioned it yet, but it was on the screen. So this one is what communicates with all Modi modules. It can communicate via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or USB cable. So right now I'm just using USB because it's, well, I have a computer, so it's easy enough. So I'm going to connect the infrared module, and let's see if it's recognized. Okay, so I've just connected it. You can see that it popped up on the screen. And if I go to my if block, the infrared can now be selected as a condition. So I'm going to click if. I'm going to click the IR and then use its proximity mode. But the problem is, what is our threshold going to be? Is it going to be 100? Is it going to be 0? I don't know. We'll pick 50 for now, but I'll show you how we can tell. So this is really one of my favorite features. It's the module monitoring. So you can see as I bring my hand closer and further, we get a live reading of the values for this. So let's kind of go to a table. As I've said, 0 for the infrared module is kind of like 10 to 15 centimeters. That's a little bit far. If you have that in your bathroom, you might trigger it accidentally. So let's pick a value that's a little bit better so we don't set it off by accident. I picked 30. It's about this far. That's pretty good because you don't have to touch it, but it can detect you no problem. And it doesn't detect anything that it shouldn't. So I'm going to change this value if the proximity is greater than 30. Great. All right, so now we need to start our next phase, which is our countdown. And what exactly is a countdown? Let's see. How do we do it in code? So we grab a loop. This loop, we just nest it under if because we want it to be triggered only if the infrared sensor is detecting your hand. So that's why this will only run if the if condition is true. Okay, so how many times do we want to loop it? We're going to loop it 20 times. Now, you notice we don't have units yet still. And if you're getting impatient, I apologize, but you're gonna see the method to my madness momentarily. So I think we need a few more modules now. I'm going to attach a display. You can see that it popped up on the screen immediately. And what else do we need? I think a speaker. Okay, and the speaker's on the screen as well. So we're good to go. So in our countdown, first we need to display the amount of time that's left. And then we need to subtract 1 from that. And then we need to decide how often that will happen. So let's do that. So first we need to display how much time is left. And we do that with the drawing mode. We're going to use text. And there we go. We're going to start right in the corner. Now I'm just going to type that. Okay, my keyboard, I guess, is running low. Wash 4. Okay, and so we want to say wash for blank more seconds. So let's see. We're going to use the variable block, and we're going to put it there. And it's asking us which variable we want to show. We want to show time. Okay, now that we're back, we have the variable. We can put in some text. Wash for blank more seconds. Okay, and we are done. All right, so our display is taken care of. And next, we need to subtract 1 from our variable. We have it right here. We're going to go time is the variable we're going to change, and we're going to use its previous value minus 1. Okay, there we go. And we also need to see how long do we want this to happen, because we don't have units yet. We just have 20, 20, there's no units. But now with the delay, we have units. They're in milliseconds, so 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So basically, this little loop is going to happen 20 times, and it's going to last 1 second each time. So that gives us 20 seconds in total. We're going to display the time that's remaining. We're going to subtract 1 from that, and then wait and do it all over again. Okay, so now we're at the notify stage. We're done with the countdown. We're almost finished. So we need to display a message and have a little bit of a sound too. So let's see how to do that. Okay, we're going to grab the display, and we're not going to nest it immediately under loop. We're going to put it outside of the loop. So this display will only run after the loop is finished, so after 20 seconds. We're going to use text, and we're going to have our message be, all done, good job. Great. And we also want a bit of a tone as well. So there we go. I'm going to choose a note on the piano, give it a volume of 100. Great. And well, I need to give it a delay because the blocks don't know how long you want it to play for. So I'm going to give it 400 milliseconds. And I'm going to bring in another note because we're fancy. And I'm going to do this one, volume 100, right? And another delay, 500 milliseconds. And if we don't tell the module to be quiet, it's just going to keep making noise forever. And I don't like that. So I'm just going to give it a random frequency and then volume of 0. Great. So we've got that. And I'll add another 1 second delay there just so our success message stays on the screen even longer. All right, so we're pretty much done the basic timer, but we want to give it a nicer user interface. So we're going to add an else block as well right here. And this is what's going to happen if these conditions are not met. So basically, before the sensor detects anything, this is what it's going to do. It's going to display a bit of text. And let's see. That text is going to be wash your hands for, 1 second. Text, wash your hands for 20 seconds. All right, now I think we're done. Let's upload it and see what happens. So who thinks this is going to work? Do you think the code is right? Does it look okay? So here's a big overview of the whole code. Our last chance to test it last chance to look it over before we actually give it a try. All right, so let me show you. Okay, so it's already running because it already detected me, but as you can see, it's a nice sturdy unit, just like we saw in the video, and it's counting down. Okay, and we even heard a little tone. Isn't that cool? So you can see that, let me show you. So my hand is quite far, and it's not triggering it accidentally. It only happens when I get closer. There you go. So it's working as intended. See, 20 seconds is a really long time. Would you have thought that it's actually that long? Because I timed myself and I was not accurate. But I think we can make this even better, and we can do that by using an LED. So I'm just going to attach an LED right here. So right now it's not doing anything because there's no code for it. So let's go back, and I'm going to, well, I got to take this away. Okay, you see all the modules popped up on my screen. So let's add a flashing, well, no, let's go simple now. We're going to add a blue LED because water's blue. So this LED will stay blue while there's still time left on our timer. What should happen when it's done? Let's change it to green. All right. And if nothing happens, we want to make sure it stays off. There we go. All right, that's it. We just added an LED. All right, let's see. Now the question is, will it blend? Or rather, will it work? Let's see. Okay, so we have solid blue light that's going to go on for 20 seconds. And I'm making you wait purposely because I need everyone to understand that 20 seconds is a really long time. It was a bit of a shock when I found that out. All right, and we got the green light. Isn't that cool? Okay, let's make it even better. We don't want the steady blue light. We want a blinking blue light, right? So that's a little bit fancier. We're going to have to tell it to be blue and then tell it to turn off. And there's going to be a delay for each of those. But we still need this total thing, all the code under the loop, to be 1,000 milliseconds in total. So we're going to break up the delay into 500 milliseconds and 500 milliseconds. So it's going to be blue for 500 milliseconds. Okay, and then it's going to be off for 500 milliseconds. Yeah, that sounds good. So let's upload our code. All right, code is uploaded. Okay, we have our blinking blue LED. So what I really like about Modi is it's really, well, obviously modular since we're dealing with modules, but it's very easy to add additional functionality. You just have to look in the kit and pick the right module. You can do whatever you want and totally customize it. You can customize the display. You could add little servos if you wanted. You can trigger it by voice. You can do anything. The possibilities are limitless. So that's it. That's our entire code. You see, it pretty much fits on the screen. And I hope it's very understandable because we took this problem that we had, an everyday problem, and we broke it up into simple steps. And then we solved each individual step and we created a solution in just a matter of minutes without doing line coding, without worrying about syntax, just using a little bit of logic. Does anyone have any questions there? Was that understandable? Did I go? I haven't been watching the live chat. Sorry, but I hope you understood. I think it's pretty straightforward how it works, and a timer is a pretty common object that we're all familiar with. So that was it. I really thank you for joining us. It's very much appreciated. And I love questions, so please do ask some questions. You can find me on Twitter or email that email address there, or just ask in the chat. We have a lot more videos with other creations and other interesting things on the channel. So feel free to watch those and, get inspired. We made Modi specifically to make coding education and robotics easy and fun to learn. So I hope I was able to convey that. Oh, we got a question in the live chat. So the difference between this and programming is very small. So this is programming, but it's programming using blocks rather than typing out all the code individually. Oh, by the way, I need to show you something. 1 second. Okay. So by programming, you're probably thinking something like this, right? This is programming, right? And it looks kind of scary, in my opinion, especially to a non-coder, especially to a child. So our goal was to make programming a lot less scary. So instead of dealing with this specific code, you deal with the user-friendly, drag and drop, nice and easy interface, which makes it a lot more intuitive. So we've simplified programming from being this and mind your syntax and make sure you don't get any typos. We've simplified it to what's your input, what's your output, how are they going to communicate, and that's about it. Basically, if you can describe your problem and describe the solution, you can drag and drop a cool little creation for yourself. I'm so sorry to scare you, but yeah, this isn't even the scariest type of programming. There are scarier ones. So yeah, any other questions? Like I said, I love questions. I'm going to scare you more with this evil